earn more money but too busy to start a side hustle? Do it the right way and teach your money to make more money for yourself, even when you're asleep. Dale Corpus will show you just how here on the School of Cash Flow. With his entrepreneurial mindset and extensive experience in real estate and finance, Dale will help you become a responsible, strategic, and passionate passive real estate investor. Learn how you can increase your earnings or find more ways to make money, only here on the School of Cash Flow.
Good afternoon and welcome to the School of Cash Flow podcast. I'm the host, Dale Corpus. So I love interviewing experienced, successful real estate investors to understand how they tick, how they got to where they are right now. I like to uncover their mindset and understand the overall progression of their career. So you're in for a treat for today. My guest, Jason Mittman, for today has invested in pretty much every asset class in real estate, and I wanted to pick his brain. So Jason was introduced to me by a past podcast guest of mine, Ben Kogut, who was a mentee of Jason's, and I'm welcomed and was honored by that introduction. And so here's a little bit more about Jason. So Jason is passionate about family, friends, the outdoors, commercial real estate, public speaking, and business coaching. He is a competitive athlete and a mountaineer. He is a licensed Texas real estate broker, CCIM, Society of Exchange Counselors, SEC member, and holds a degree from UTSA. And Jason has over 25 years of real estate expertise, including analysis, sourcing, development, construction, leasing, finance, acquisition, disposition, and brokerage. So, like I said, Jason has invested in pretty much many real estate asset classes, including medical office, multifamily, multi-tenant retail, land, hospitality, and single tenant assets. He has a company called Only Epic Holdings, where he is the president and CEO. Whew, that was a lot to say, Jason. So without further ado, welcome, Jason, to the show. How are you?
Wonderful. It's an honor to be on. Thanks for having me.
So I know this is our first time connecting with each other outside of email exchange. And so where are you based out of in the United States?
So I'm based in Golden, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver. And though I moved, I also have a place out in Summit County because, as you mentioned, I like to spend as much time outdoors in the mountains as I can. It helps me think, helps me keep my head straight, and keeps me balanced.
Yeah, I mean, and so my audience right now, I know most of you are going to be listening to this on, on iTunes or Spotify or whatnot. But if you catch the YouTube version of this, I'm actually recording with him, and he's outside, literally outside. Where are you right now?
So I'm in Idaho Springs, where the temperature drop is about 4 degrees. This is in the clouds around. So if you're on top of a mountain and you see this is the code for you need to get down fast. So which applies, by the way, in real estate a lot. If there's enough clouds, you need to maybe get into a safe spot and position for your next strategy. So I apply a lot of lessons from the mountains, and it's cold. It's like 44 degrees out.
Oh, well, thank you. It's like you're all bundled up right now. Are you there for, just a side question, are you there for some sort of, competitive race or anything like that? Mm-hmm.
No, I'm looking actually at real estate, and I try to make at least one day a week where I go into some town and explore after I've done a ton of background work, which, is part of the key, as we all are aware, to success is what are the trends, where are things going? I read a lot, and this is one of those towns that is on a very strong upward progression from a growth perspective. So I start sniffing around.
I love it. Well, I love it. And so, speaking of real estate, let's just backtrack to everything. So what is your story? How did you get into real estate?
That's a great question. Thank you. So this marks 32 years in real estate for me, and in commercial real estate. When I was 18 years old, I had a pretty successful lawn business. I've always been very entrepreneurial, and went to do a bid on a guy's house to cut his lawn. And this is the kind of grass, the kind of yard you see in the cover of Southern Living magazine, water fountains and pools and And, I had no concept of how I care for a lawn like this, nor did any of the guys who worked for me. And so I went to the owner of the home, whose name was Bobby Jory. And I said, Mr. Jory, I don't really know how to take care of a yard like this, nor do any of the guys who work for me, but I'll do it for free personally. If you'll show me how until I learn how to master it, then I'll teach my guys and I'll charge you. And he looked at me and said, I don't have time for that, but thank you for the offer. I really appreciate your honesty. It's a key lesson there is honesty and integrity get you a long way. If you don't know, don't BS your way. It goes through quick. Saying I don't know, help me is a very powerful tool in real estate and in investing. And he gave me his card and said, if you ever need anything, give me a call. And a few weeks later, I called him and I said, we talked for a few minutes and I told him, I'd like to know how you make your money, which only an 18-year-old kid would be stupid enough to ask that kind of question, right? And he stopped at length and he said, are you asking me how I make my money or how I'm wealthy? And I said, well, aren't they the same thing? He goes, no, they're not. Not at all. Be at my office at whatever time and day, and I showed up in best dressed I could. I had a suit from Goodwill and black shoes that I cleaned up using a black Sharpie marker. And that's another lesson I try to give to people is listen, be coachable, dress the best you can, show up early, work late, and learn. They say, well, I can't afford clothes. You can. You may be embarrassed going to Goodwill to get them, but you can buy an iron. You can get something close enough to fit and you can look the best. You can make it happen. It's just, are you willing? And that applies to so much. And so I showed up at his office and it was a huge law firm, 2 floors of an office tower in San Antonio, Texas. And he sat me down this giant corner office and he looked at me for a long time and it was this awkward silence, but I knew better than to speak, let the silence speak for itself. And he said, I make money as a lawyer. I'm wealthy from real estate. Do you want to learn? And I said, yeah. And he kept me under his wings and mentored me for 8.5 years from, look, when you maintain a building, this is how you do it and go do it. And this is how you hire a crew. And this is how you hold them accountable to this is what a financial statement is. This is what a bank cares about. This is what your partners care about. This is a lease. He made me this guy had, again, he taught law school at night. Wow. And before he'd let me use his lease, I had to be able to argue every paragraph of that 52-page lease with him. And, I'm so much better from that mentoring and I try to pass it forward and I've never looked back. And so that started at the young, ripe age of 18. And, I had no money. I had no knowledge. I had some money from the landscape business, but I was using it to pay for college. Yep. And you don't need those things. You just need to work hard and ask when you need mentoring. And now with the unbelievable wealth of resources available on the internet, you can get started. And if the deal's good enough, that's more than I had, and you can make it happen. That's the bottom line.
I just think that's an amazing story. You were there at the right time and place. I mean, you're not being shy to ask him, how do you make your money? I don't know if you were trying to if you were seeking a mentor at that time, or, if this just happened to turn into a mentorship that you weren't even expecting. I mean, can you elaborate on that? Were you already looking for a mentor, or did this just kind of just happen? Huh?
I don't think I was, but the universe kind of reaches out. So at the time, this was the end of the RTC days, which a lot of the audience probably knows nothing about. So when the tax law changed in 86, it had massive consequences, specifically in real estate, and it caused the savings and loan collapse. So the 2008 collapse was nothing. We lost some bank. In the 1986 collapse, we lost over 3,000 lending institutions, 3,000. Right. And so I was doing a lot of lawns for bank foreclosed homes. And I remember thinking, even in high school, it's like, God, there's got to be something you can do with this. What if you just paint it and fix it up? And so I always had that inkling in my mind about real estate. And, the universe kind of connects the dots for you sometimes.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it's like, the way, it seems like, Bobby Jari was this Mr. Miyagi type of person to you, but it's like, I don't know if he had other mentees. But I'm wondering, what was it that you think he saw in you that was making him to want you to take you under his wing?
That's a great question. Again, I think it goes back to, so I was referred to him. So I had a little bit of credibility, and I said, I don't know how to do this, but I'll do it for free. I'll put in the work for free to learn how to do it right instead of just try to BS my way through. And I think that just weighed very heavily on him in a positive way, that this young kid of 18 was willing to do that. And, that's the reality, is sometimes you got to put in the work first, and sometimes you got to do it for free. And it only took me 26 years to become an overnight success until I made my first extraordinary deal. And people tend to see, Dale, success in the millionaires and billionaires that they read about or see on television or hear on podcasts and think, well, that's how I should start too, right? It should flow to me. That's not the case. The fact that they're being highlighted makes them an outlier. Most of us have to work for decades. So if you put the work in, you'll find your own version of a Bobby Jory. You have to put it forward, though. So Tim Ferriss, who's got an amazing podcast, and he's an amazing author, and he's very successful. When he was in the Bay Area, he would go volunteer for free at angel network meetups and VC meetups. And so he would do anything they said. He'd do it for free, but that got him in front of the right people because he was willing to volunteer for free and show up and be there and help out. That goes a long ways. You have to actually do it. You can't just say it.
It makes sense. That makes sense. Just how you refer to me by Ben Kogut, who was a past podcast guest of mine. Like, he told me that you were even his mentor. It's not, I know you mentor other folks, and can you even tell me about that? It's like this mentorship is really important, just, to really level up, what in any business that you're in, just, modeling what somebody that's successful has achieved. You're paying it forward, they're learning from you and whatnot. Like, what do you seek when you're looking to potentially accept a mentee?
Intelligent.
Yeah.
Fire in their belly, meaning I want somebody who's hungry, who wants to succeed in a positive attitude. And Ben Kogut has got such an amazing positive attitude, and he wants to. And this was so I started mentoring him when he was 18 years old. He was a freshman in college. It was a very long. I don't remember how long it was. Maybe 17 years ago. But I started producing a race called the Women's Adventure Race to raise money for a nonprofit called the Young Survival Coalitions for young women with breast cancer. And I needed help. Yeah. We're putting on this was kind of like Warrior Dash and Spartan Race long before there was a Warrior Dash in the Spartan Race. And I wanted every participant to have an amazing time. And I wanted to raise a huge money for this nonprofit. And so I needed help, and Ben Kogut agreed to pretty much do whatever I told him. Yeah, he'd go run around, he'd get fly, and he stayed in touch, and he came to me. We'd talk on and off, and he came to me sometime, maybe his sophomore year in college, and said, "I'm thinking about being either a sports agent or going into real estate. Which do you think?" And I said, "Well, do you want to go to law school and maybe make money, or do you just want to work your butt off and for sure make money if you work hard and have integrity?" It's like, well, I want to, that's when you're 18 or 19, if you drop the for sure make money, if you work hard, you can make progress. And so that's how he got started in real estate. And he, said, well, what do I do? And first you need to graduate college. And then it's, what do I do? It's, you need to get a real estate license. He said, now what? I said, we need to go find a broker. And every step of the way he did it. And he started off on residential. He goes, how do I get in commercial? I go, you have to get a commercial listing. And he went and got one. And so eventually he proved it enough that I took him in under my brokerage that I was working for at the time. And he just never looked back. And that's, if you can trend success, those traits are very consistent. And so here's how I do these weekend workshops, and we do fear setting and goal setting and mindset and quarterly action plans and vision. But, it all kind of starts with some of the same fundamentals, right? It's like I'm going to use a mountain example.
Okay.
So all of us are at the bottom of a mountain. We're at Mount Rainier in Washington State, wherever, right? Pick a mountain you can envision in your head. You go, I'm going to climb up it. You and 3 of your teammates are climbing up, and there's 50 people going up. And you get up, and you've been working hard, and you look around, and half the people are gone because it's effort. And you don't know the reward yet because the top is far away, Dale. And then as you go up, the weather gets cold, the wind gets bad, and it starts snowing. Bad conditions. Does it sound like something that happens to you regularly in real estate where they can change?
Absolutely.
Right. Constantly. And you've been in it long enough that you know that for sure, right? And so then you look around and all of a sudden half the people are gone, right?
Right.
You go, well, wait a second, where'd they go? And now it's half again. But you and your team go, the weather's bad and we know how to deal with bad weather. We wear jackets, we get on a rope, we've trained and prepared to know how to deal with challenging problems, trained and prepared from past knowledge and mentors. So you keep going. And now as you're near the summit, you look around and you go, we're the only ones up here. And you get to watch the most beautiful sunrise you've ever seen. The reward, right? The reward of accomplishment and the reward of here's your beautiful sunrise and views as far as the eye can see. Mm-hmm. And it's just you. And the reason it's just you is because everyone else chose that as conditions get adverse, they go down. Or as they did not prepare properly, they have to go down. And you get the reward and say, I get to see something so few people have ever seen. That's the same in our business. That is exactly what we're in the business of doing. We think we're in the business of buying and owning real estate. What we're in the business of doing is figuring out how to deal with things others won't, ethically and honorably, and work our way through huge challenges. And in exchange, we get a great reward. And the reward is income and pride of ownership and asset creation and asset wealth, and frankly, more deals. And when you put all those pieces together, you can really get a lot of joy and create a long-term path of wealth.
Yep. I love everything you said. I mean, it's just like, I think part of the thing of being successful in real estate, even real estate sales career, people think it's easy, but it's not. And there's just, I love solving problems myself. And the harder the problem, the more I love it, because the more people won't touch it. And it's, it's better. It's like only a few of us are willing to do that. You know what I mean? And be the last man standing type of deal at the, top of the mountain. Right. And I just love everything that you said about all of it. Successful people, what I love about them is they persevere. If the going gets tough, it doesn't matter. It's like we've trained for this and we're ready to go. Going back to you're getting your mentor when you're 18. Can you talk to me about what was the very first real estate deal you ever did?
That's a fantastic question. You've done good research.
Yeah.
So I don't remember the year. I was still a semi-pro athlete on Team Vignette doing multi-day adventure races. I think it was 99 or 2000. I had done some residential already. But I had a teammate, John Beard, who is always positive, always incredibly fit, but he also grew up on a ranch, which means he knew how to weld and do electrical because you're a rancher, right? Mm-hmm. I have to do a deal. And I was driving back from a landmark forum in Houston, Texas to Austin. And I wrote down, I'm going to do a commercial deal. And so I saw this all I saw was the for sale sign, bank owned. And it was a full city block on Highway 290, 45 minutes outside of Austin on the highway. And so I started doing research, which is a key lesson. If you want to win in real estate, you need to know the data. And I sat down with Mr. Jory and we talked over the deal, and I went to go make the offer. And it was a really lowball offer. And as I'm going to make this offer, I pulled over on the side of the highway and I called. I think I had a cell phone already. Yeah, Jory gave me one. Mr. Jory gave me one. And I called and He said, are you in Giddings? That was the name of the town. I said, no, I'm on the side of the highway. I'm going to turn around. I can't go. He goes, are you okay? Were you in a wreck? And I said, no. I can't go. He goes, well, why? What happened? He goes, they're not going to accept my offer. And so your podcast editor may have to bleep this out, but he never would swear. And he goes, you asshole. It's not up to you to say no. It's up to them to say no. Get back in your car, go make the offer. And then he hung up on me. So I went and made the offer, and I'm sitting at the bank, and I gave him a 2-choice proposal. And that's a great option, by the way. If you want something to be accepted, don't make an offer because you're going to get a counter. Make 2 or 3 offers and say, choose one. Right? Just make sure all 3 of those offers are acceptable, or drive it in one way, or get close. You give somebody a choice versus give me a yes or no. It's a lot better to give a choice. And so I go to stand up, literally, I give him the offer and I go to stand up to leave. And he looks at me across the desk because I told him what was wrong with this building. He was the president of the bank. He didn't know it had asbestos. He didn't know it. They owned it 14 years. He was the new president. I made it that he was like, oh my gosh, we got to get this off the books. And he said, okay. And I was standing up, and then I sat back down and I looked at John. I didn't know what to do with okay. I was only prepared for no. And he accepted. He signed it. I have that LOI framed on my wall with the before and after pictures. And for the next 6 months, John Beard and I would go up there because it was in such bad condition and we didn't have any real money, real wealth. We did the work ourselves. The glass storefront that's in and we bought a full city block on highway frontage. And we made probably at the end of the day, 6X on that. And, but the storefront glass, those were giant tempered glass sliding door windows we found on Craigslist. Wow. So we didn't have any for new materials. The metal mansard roof was used Mueller building metal that we figured out how to build a facade from, and then figured out how to paint it. Wow. So, again, if you're willing to put forth the effort, it's wonderful to have your back against the wall. What you should be scared of, Dale, is getting comfortable. That's when you're at greatest risk, because you're comfortable. You're not watching the ball. You're not working hard. You're not paying attention to your investors' capital. When you get comfortable, put the brakes on and go, how do I get uncomfortable? Because that's going to put you forward. Yep. You're going to be watching the ball when you're uncomfortable and you're nervous.
Yep. I have to say, you are a champ when it comes to being resourceful. I mean, it's like you just do whatever it takes. Like,
we didn't have a choice, right?
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you, what are the things, what are the nuggets that you learned from that initial transaction that still kind of stick with you today? What are the best lessons you learned from that experience?
So 1, never be afraid to make the offer. It is irrelevant what's being asked. All that's relevant is what are you willing to pay for it and what's it worth? What they're asking for has nothing to do with the deal. If you're a savvy investor and you're a guardian of other people's money. The second thing is we had a few investors who trusted us. Be a guardian of other people's money. That is your obligation. Well above your own money, well above your time. Your obligation, if you take other people's money, is theirs first. Their money before yours. Their money before your fees. Their interest before your own. And that will guarantee you tremendous success. We just did a deal where we syndicated. We're buying a portfolio of 7 buildings of industrial and retail. And at a conference, I stood up and pitched the deal, and we raised the money in about 2 minutes. But that was not the deal. It was because they believed in us. They believe in the syndicator, the investor, and obviously they know we only do good assets. And the third thing is work your butt off and always push on price. Always. Whenever you're spending the money on the asset, where can you save? Can you save $1,000? And you go, it's not worth $1,000. And you're right. If it's a $10 million project, it's not. But, I'll give you another example from this resourcefulness that's embedded in me. We just had to do a 20,000 square foot concrete slab, and I saved $3 a square foot. That's $60,000, not $3 a square foot. The HVAC is very expensive right now. It was $1,000 a ton before, and it was $2,500 a ton. right now, but I was able to save $200 a ton. You go, well, what's $200 a ton? I needed 60 tons.
Mm-hmm.
Saved $12,000. So between those two line items, that's $72,000. The money adds up quick. And remember, it's not just my money, it's other people's money too.
Yep.
And we always put about 50% of our own capital into a deal. And when you lead by example and you lead by your work ethic,
yep,
and you lead by those other things, the deals come together. And I think that's stayed in me ever since Giddings. I'm sorry about the background noise. I'm in a public spot in Idaho.
Totally
Springs.
fine. Totally fine. And you know, one of the things I wanted to ask you is like, you're obviously an experienced fundraiser for syndications and whatnot for like, you know, folks that are trying to get in that space, like what to start raising funds and attracting investors. How did like, what do you recommend for folks to do to even start that off? Any advice?
For raising the money from investors? So here's the good news. I'm working on a book right now, but I'm working on it from the investor perspective. In other words, if you're an early investor in others' deals, what should I look for? But that applies to everyone. So what everyone will tell you, and is the correct answer, but it's also the easy, lazy answer, is who's the person, right? So who is the person putting the deal together? They're going to say, well, who's the investor? Who's the syndicator? I want to know about them. And they're right? Well, what if it's a bad deal? So, or what if that syndicator, God forbid, they drop dead and, you know, how's the deal going to sustain? So the first thing to say is, if I can put together a strong enough deal, I'll find the money. Right? So let me ask you a question. If I went to your neck of the woods in the Bay Area and I found a 12 cap multifamily, how hard would it be to raise money if I had that building under contract?
It would be like within my own network. That'd be pretty easy.
Yeah. Everybody would be jumping on that.
Absolutely.
Out of control. Right? So if you find the right deal, you can make up for your youth of not being a great investor. They're going to want additional controls and additional oversight. Focus on finding a quality deal that you would be willing to share with your grandmother. That say, my grandma would put money into this deal. I would feel comfortable with my grandma putting money in. You find that deal, that will get you started. We can take riskier deals because our reputation's strong. We guarantee the loans. We put a lot of our own cash in, but you can find those right deals. They're out there still in any market, good and bad markets.
Got it. That makes sense. Wanted to switch gears to your company, Only Epic. So tell me about that. Like when and why did you start your company, Only Epic?
It was for years. We had two companies, Mittman Real Estate and AR Interests, Inc. And AR Interests is a holding company. It doesn't have a management company, and that stands for Adventure Racer Interests because I was an adventure racer. Only Epic came about because I hated a company being named after me. I just thought it was just too kind of, and so I wrote down a series of words which were valuable to me, like doing things in an epic fashion, doing things in ways that were monumental. And I used a synonym finder. And then I started searching for websites that were available. No kidding. I had a long list of words that were of meaning to me. And that's how it came about. I brought on a partner who helps in putting together deals. And he's got a good finance background. And we get along well because he's an ex semi-pro road bike rider. And when we're on a trail run, we're giving each other a lot of smack talk. And I thought, this guy's willing to smack talk me? Sure, let's go into business. And after about 2 years, we decided to join forces and merge. And I brought him into Only Epic. And it's gone very well. And we've had our hurdles. And if you don't, frankly, you're probably not really in business. Mm-hmm. If you're a developer, or you're a serious investor as a caretaker of other people's money, if you're not waking up 2 or 3 times a year going, oh crap, in a total panic, like you're going to lose it all, you're probably not really a developer or a serious syndicator or gilded guy. Yep. Or you don't, take the value of other people's money strongly enough. Yep. So, the answer is it's a variety of things that make Only Epic. We syndicate deals in the Southwest, Southeast, and Midwest. Like I mentioned before, we just put together a portfolio of seven properties in Ohio, Kansas, and Texas, and closing with very favorable interest rates. We're going to be putting together, and that was a fund.
Okay.
We're putting together another fund, working on this book to gift to investors. We're just going to give it away to people, hopefully be helpful, and do our thing and spend time outside. We value as a company education, family, health and fitness, and doing very, very good deals.
Good. The types of deals you do, like mainly what asset class do you guys mainly like to focus on? I know you've done a lot.
Right. So my bread and butter is going to be retail centers that are suburbs to one of the top 50 MSAs that are anchored by either a grocery or a Walmart type. We also do medical office building. And then Stuart, my partner, does some multifamily and self-storage. And then we've done a lot of single tenant things like for AT&T and Verizon. We split between value add and other asset classes, and now doing a lot of light industrial. So think of just in time, of logistics, of near an Amazon hub. Those categories are pretty easy for us to slip into. And it's been successful, and we've learned an awful lot. I think the market conditions are changing, so I'm not sure where we'll invest in 5 years, but that's where we are right now.
And what kinds of investment strategies do you employ to create value in these properties?
Right. So what we look for if it's value add is either poorly maintained, poorly managed, or both. If it's in a great location, hard signalized corner, good traffic count, good visibility, that's of intrigue to us. If it's industrial and it's near a lot of other access ports, highway infrastructure or barge infrastructure or rail infrastructure, if it's close to Amazon hub, you likely have low vacancy in the area. So those things will have impact in our decision making. We like rents that are at or below market with low vacancy. So my strategy is when I'm working with an investor, look, my goal is not to make a ton on rent increases over time. If I can keep up with inflation, I'm happy. What I don't want to do is lose ground. So protect money first, then make more wealth after that. So if I'm buying a building that's getting $50 a square foot in rent for a retail coffee shop, but the market's $25 a square foot in rent, and the landlord got it because he amortized the TI, I don't want that building. Because if that tenant ever leaves, I'm never going to get that $50 a foot again that I paid for. I would rather get that building for $20 a foot, knowing I can replace that rent. So it's some value creation and it's some risk arbitrage. Yep. As well as making sure you have assets where you can secure good, long-term, low-interest debt.
Yes. Makes sense. How do you guys find your deals? I mean, are a lot of deals given to you since you've been doing this for a while, or is it a mixture of things?
At this point, fortunately, our email inbox is always a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing that there's always a million deals in it. It's a curse because we never get through it all. There's just too much in there.
Yeah. Out of all of the asset classes in real estate that you invest in, do you have a favorite out of curiosity?
Well, my bread and butter for decades has always been retail shopping centers. But right now I like Class B minus light industrial. And Class B minus light industrial is really good because, again, there's always flex space, even more light flex. I can break it up. I can increase the size by taking out a wall or adding a wall. And I'm always going to have a list of tenants wanting that space. Think of the air conditioning guy, the plumber, the t-shirt print shop. And I'm not paying above replacement costs. So typically, if I'm getting a tilt wall industrial, I'm paying a big price. If I'm getting some B minus light industrial, may not be the prettiest thing, but man, do they do well. Wow. And I like to buy things below replacement cost. Costs me $120 to build. If I can buy it for 60 and add 10 to get it where it needs to be, I'm going to beat the competition who builds a new building because they can't compete with my rent.
Okay, that makes sense. What are the challenges like right now, like, in that space, would you say? Are there any?
There's a lot. And I encourage all your listeners to start researching and using after action reports. So every time you come up with a problem, document it so you learn. I think it's not really a challenge for this asset class as much as our industry in general. Interest rates are so extraordinarily low. Mm-hmm. The stock market did make a correction, but not a big one. There's a lot of unknown with government programs and government regulations as far as, foreclosure and evictions. And so with so much unknown and interest rates so historically low, compressing cap rates, what happens when interest rates go up? What do we do in a stagflation economy, which it appears we're in? And then you add to that some other disruptions of supply chain that are affecting construction costs, from concrete to, CPVC pipe running more than copper pipe, HVAC, and you're signing a lease not knowing what your true tenant improvement expenses are. There are ways we arbitrage for that. We put up to limits, but there's a lot of unknown between debt, government regulation, and construction supply chain. We're in a lot of new territory. And I would say the other leg to that is we have a very serious workforce problem. And that workforce problem is tied not just to supply of workforce, but to supply of affordable housing for workforce. And so if you have staff at a restaurant and they can't hire people because that person can't afford to live in that area, you have a tenant who can't pay rent. So it all trickles down.
Got it. What kinds of advice do you like to give to newer, aspiring commercial real estate investors?
Do a fear exercise. You just Google the Tim Ferriss podcast or reach out to me via LinkedIn and we'll send you our fear setting forms. Before you focus on what your goals are, focus on your mission and vision. So if your vision is X, you can build goals are meant to achieve the vision. So set your vision first. Vivid Vision is a great book by Cameron Herold to help you figure that out. And then do your vision work, then set your goals to achieve your vision, and then you break it down. Then do a quarterly action plan to achieve your goals, and just build on it from there. You take it one step at a time. You break it apart into bites, and you just start achieving. But write it down, and you have to do it with discipline. You have to focus. And frankly, the fear of I don't have money or I can't find a deal. I was told that by someone. He said, well, how's it coming on finding deals? He goes, well, I don't have any yet and I'm frustrated. How many offers did you make this week? None. How many deals did you look at this week? 1 or 2. Say, well, Ben Kogut works for HGH Investments. Do you know they look at over 500 deals a week?
Yep. He told me on the podcast. Yeah.
So you tell me where the odds are better at finding a deal, looking at 1 or 2 and making no offers, or looking at 500 to 1,000 and making 100 offers. It's a statistics game, man.
It's a numbers game.
But you got to play, and you can't, if it's $1 million and the building's worth to you 400,000, but it's been on the market for 2 years, but you're embarrassed to make a $400,000 offer, that's on you. Make the offer. Let them say no.
Mm-hmm. Good points. Any big goals that you're working on the next year, either personal or business?
Yeah, so it's to get this investor book finished, and we'll have that done in about another month and get it, finish is not the right word. Get the investor book published. Okay. So I can get in the hands of people and help them. I'm going to try to speed summit Denali in Alaska in June. Mm-hmm. It's 2 of us. We're going to solo together, meaning we'll be next to each other, but we won't be on a rope, but there for each other in an emergency. My goal is 96 hours or less from base camp to Denali and back down. It's normally 2 weeks. So doing that. And then, we're going to be doing another real estate fund.
Okay.
And the goal is to hopefully have enough good quality assets under contract to put that fund together by January 1. So 3 big goals.
Excellent.
Climb mountain fast and do another fund.
Excellent. I love to ask this question now towards the end. It's like, can I ask you, what does success mean to you?
That's a fantastic question. Thank you for asking that. So I'm going to ask you a question back.
Okay.
Consider Richard Branson successful?
I do. Yes.
What if I were to tell you that Richard Branson's goal was to be a recluse and to live solo on an ashram, and that was his lifetime goal, was just to live quietly in a cabin? Would you then consider him successful?
That's making me think. If that's all I knew about him, or that, I mean, the thing is, I know other things that he does and whatnot. And I mean,
right.
And it's like, but I don't know that other side of him. If I just were to focus on that aspect of it, probably not, but I know what the companies and exactly. Just everything he's built. So I focus on that.
Right. So that's the challenge, is what's your success needs to be an individual goal, not what you read about. Right. So if your goal as a successful person is to have a successful podcast and a real estate investment platform and help educate people, you're successful. So the first thing is to define really, truly deeply what success, because here's what success is not. You will not be on your deathbed going, I wish I would have worked more. And maybe I wish I would have spent more time with my partner, outdoors, giving to charity, whatever. It's not going to be, I wish I just would have worked harder, right? So my answer is more of a question. What do you want to define as your success? And I would encourage you to not say a dollar amount. That's easy. Once you know the tools to make money, money's like a river. You have to just know how to reach in and scoop and hold on to it and redeploy it, at least in real estate, right? So what is success to you? What is success in business? What is success in family? What is success spiritually? What is success physically, mentally? And then think, okay, I feel pretty fortunate where I am, or I have some work to do. And for most of us, we have work to do. But to box yourself in to try to be like the guy on the cover of a magazine, you're setting yourself up for failure. Don't do that. Focus on success to you as an individual.
Good points. Wow, you really made me think, and I appreciate that.
Good.
What's your superpower that's contributed, to having this great life right now? What would you say?
I think no matter how many times you knock me down, I stand back up would be one. And two is, I believe, as Gary Keller says, in Failure Your Way Forward. So solve problems, but if you don't have a problem, something's wrong. And then learn from your problems and move forward. And I'm a big believer in learning from my problems and moving forward. So, and hopefully not repeating the problems too many times over and over and over again.
Hey, how can somebody get a hold of you?
Find me on LinkedIn or on Facebook. I'm not much of an Instagrammer, but I do have an Instagram account. I think it's Jabo Mountain. And then on LinkedIn, Jason Mittman, and on Facebook, Jason Mittman.
Well, thank you.
And of course, our website is onlyepic.com, onlyepic.com. Hit me up either with a message on LinkedIn or one of the other social media platforms. And as soon as that investor book is done, we'll gladly send out digital copies.
I appreciate that. And well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks, Jason, for joining me on this episode.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed our conversation, offered tremendous value and insight for myself too. So I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you do. And to my listeners, thanks for checking out this episode of the School of Cash Flow. And remember to leave a podcast review on iTunes, as it helps me attract even more guests just like Jason. So until next time, live life abundantly.
Wonderful. Love it.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the School of Cash Flow. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into all the tips and tricks you can use to help you on your passive investing journey. In the meantime, you may visit www.cashflowschoolpodcast.com for more great episodes. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share. That's all for this episode, folks. See you next time.